What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Today I got a chance to sit down with the CEO of Wax, William Quigley. How's it going?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm great. Thanks for stopping by. You're definitely one of those projects I've been wanting to kind of dig a little deeper into, so I really appreciate you stopping by. So for anybody that might not know what you guys are or what you do, what exactly is Wax?
So Wax is a blockchain, right? So we're building our own blockchain. It's going to be built on a variant of EOS because we really like the DPoS consensus mechanism. And it is a project that will help initially video game items, these virtual items that people trade in video games. So initially that, and then we're going to extend it to many other types of digital items outside of traditional video gaming.
So you guys are looking into all different categories and styles of
We
things?
are, and we got lots of cool stuff that down the road we'll be talking more about. But of course, video gaming itself, I think we were pretty much the first blockchain project that said, hey, the video game world is the perfect on ramp to get mass market adoption of crypto. And part of the reason for that was video game people love to trade virtual items.
Yeah,
So,
it's a massive industry. I personally have been blown away with it. I can't believe the prices of some of these things that people pay for these
yeah,
items.
the highest priced items have been transacted on one of our companies, which is OPSkins. OPSkins is a centralized marketplace where people can go. It's like eBay, where you can go and buy and you can sell your non-physical items, your virtual items. And we decided to do Wax because there was a lot of advantages to being decentralized. And that is a word that I consider almost a curse word because everybody thinks, oh, decentralized good, centralized bad. We'll talk more about that, but it's generally the opposite. Virtually everything is better for consumers if it's centralized. But there's a few things that are better or we theoretically think might be better if they're decentralized. And we can talk more about that later. But basically, Wax is a decentralized version of what OPSkins has been doing.
Okay. So you answered my question for me because I was going to ask you what is the difference, because it seems like essentially you're doing virtually almost the same thing.
They're very, very similar, done very different ways, right? Today, when somebody goes to sell a virtual item on OPSkins, they send that item to us, to our site. We hold it, and then we wait until somebody says, I want to buy that. And they pay us with whatever, PayPal or Skrill or whatever the payment method is that they want, their credit card. And then we do the handoff. Seller, here's the proceeds from the sale. Buyer, here's the virtual item. So we're in the middle to protect people so that they don't get ripped off. And there's advantages to being a middleman, and there's some disadvantages. In a perfect world, which does not exist by any stretch, the smart contract could be the middleman. And it would be faster. It would probably cost less. And there's a whole bunch of advantages of maybe propagating what OPSkins created across 1,000 other sites. And part of what the Wax blockchain is doing is it's saying, we spent an ungodly amount of money building out OPSkins. Most people don't have that much money. They don't have those skills. But you can replicate a lot of what OPSkins has done. You can replicate in a blockchain-based mechanism. And that's what Wax is doing. Wax is saying, all right, let other people be able to build their own marketplaces and let other people be able to trade items in a blockchain as opposed to, across the standard server to server methodologies where there's always a potential for items to be ripped off, trades not to be completed. Of course, you could say today with the state of blockchains that there's that risk as well. Although with blockchains, at least you eventually get your items.
Right.
It may take you 3 days if you don't pay enough in gas fees. But but we're not building for the state of blockchain today. We're building for where we believe blockchain is going.
Currently, are you dealing with just ERC-721s? Because we've also seen 1155s released as well. Are
Yeah,
you looking to integrate those into the platform?
integrate, yes, but both are very, very flawed, right?
Okay.
So I'll give you some examples, and this is for I don't know how much of your audience are, let's say, video game developers, indie game developers, right? For them, this will be kind of like I think very straightforward. But when you have a video game, and I'm sure you've played video games where you bought virtual items, right? Maybe you can trade them back and forth. Maybe you can't. The vast majority of video games don't allow you to trade items. You buy them, you own them, that's it. To me, that's a real negative, not being able to trade something, especially when these things can cost an awful lot of money, right? So one advantage of putting them on the blockchain is you're saying, hey, these items are yours. And it's an item-centric world where the virtual items belong to the players, and then they take those items and put them into video games. Now, of course, that's the aspiration. There's only a few video games today that are saying, yeah, we'll allow third-party virtual items to be used in our game, but there'll be many, many more, I have no doubt. And so if you think about it, having a virtual item, if you're a video game developer today and you create a virtual item, it costs you zero. You have a server, you say, make a virtual item, and maybe there is a, 1/10000000th of a penny cost in electricity or something to make the virtual item. That is not the case if you're trying to make virtual items in the blockchain. There was a project that we were helping, Vigo, which is now the #1 dApp in the world, distributed application, but it was on the Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah, we heard there was a little bit of issues with that one, actually.
Yeah. And what had happened was, we were like, yeah, it's okay. It cost about 50 cents to create a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain. That's when you compare it to what it costs to create a virtual item in a regular video game, it costs zero. So 50 cents is infinitely more expensive, but depending on how much you charge for the virtual item, maybe you can deal with it. When you create a virtual item in a regular video game, as a game developer, it's created instantly at the speed of light. And virtual items created on the Ethereum blockchain were taking about 90 seconds. So 90 seconds doesn't seem that long. It's actually a long time when you have lots of people trying to create items, right? And then you have to transfer that. And that was costing about 15 cents or so to transfer the item from account to account. What happened about 2 months ago was this company called Fcoin decided to do, appropriately named Fcoin. They decided to do a very stupid promotion. I won't go into the details, but
we've gone over it on the channel. You were essentially encouraging people to Sybil attack the network. Is basically what you were doing.
Yeah, I don't think that was their intention. Their intention was to get a lot of people to send items, Ethereum, to their exchange. Fcoin was an exchange, but the problem was the way they did it. You had to send by unique address. Massive number of new addresses created. Ethereum grinds to a halt. So Vigo, this dApp on Ethereum, goes from costing 50 cents to create the item to between $5 and $50. Now, the average item here is $10. So you're paying $50 to create it, and you sell it for $10. All right, so that's the game over. It went from about 90 seconds to create the item to 17 hours. So needless to say, after about 24 hours of that, I said to the Vigo guys, hey, your project is basically dead. The Ethereum mainnet has collapsed, and who the hell knows when it's going to get decongested. So we decided, the Wax team said, what if we were to prematurely roll out the alpha version of Wax, the Wax blockchain, which wasn't really ready yet? But the alternative is nothing, because the app can't work on the Ethereum mainnet because of the congestion and the cost.
Right.
And so I was very happy with our team. We stood up the alpha chain in about 48 hours. And right now it is Vigo is not only the largest DApp in the world, it does more transaction volume than all dApps globally combined.
Really?
All, by the way, for free, for free on the Wax Alpha blockchain.
Yeah.
So,
How is the progress of the blockchain coming along, by the way? I know a lot
well,
of.
a lot faster than it was before, before Ethereum mainnet collapsed.
Well, you got kind
So,
of got kind of pushed into a corner there. So
exactly, exactly. So you either say screw it, goodbye, or you're like, well, let's see what we can do. So it wasn't our choice, obviously, to launch the thing this early, but you don't want a really good project to die.
hmm
And so the lesson here is twofold. One is that, hey, if you have purpose built a blockchain to allow lots of video gamers to trade items back and forth at a low cost, it's actually pretty usable, pretty cool. People get it. Not every gamer or person in the world really understands all the ins and outs of blockchain, right? They've heard the term. But you know what they do seem to get? They seem to get the point that you're a lot safer with your items when they're on a blockchain versus a server. And that has been surprising to me that the term blockchain really does have good brand value. I figured most people wouldn't have any notion one way or the other, but by and large, the customers we've surveyed, when we ask them, do you think it's good that your items are on the blockchain? They say it's safer. Now they may not know why, but they know it's safer. So that's a good brand statement
well,
for
yeah.
blockchain.
When you have CryptoKitties, the recent one just sold for $170,000.
Yeah.
You don't want that on a centralized server. So
Yeah. And the problem, by the way, it's interesting you may mention CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties did a very good job, of course, of ushering in that Ethereum non-fungible token standard, ERC-721. The issue, of course, is for ERC-721s, or what we call, we call them NFTs, non-fungible tokens. If they're riding across the Ethereum mainnet, then you never know what the fees are going to be to send it back and forth. That's one issue. And of course, the other issue is the browser that connects you to the Ethereum mainnet is called MetaMask. And MetaMask is simply unusable. It's, as a consumer product, it doesn't work. It takes a heck of a long time to understand how to use it. It's really slow. It has all kinds of little peculiar things that the average consumer wouldn't really understand. And this is not even meant to criticize the people who created MetaMask. It was a nice first attempt. The only issue is if you're trying to get mass market adoption, it's a non-starter.
it's too many steps. It's just for the
there's
average person, you got to go get this, plug it in, do this, connect it to this. And it's just like.
And, when it comes to what we call conversion, meaning you get a customer to your site, and then you need to get them to buy something in order to do what you want them to do, play your game. MetaMask is like a conversion killer.
Yeah, well, why do you think Amazon offers one-click buy? They've made it that easy, like literally.
So when we started working with Vigo, the game DApp, we said to them, no MetaMask, because MetaMask just essentially means your game can't work. So we created an alternative to MetaMask. We call it Wax Express Trade, and it is a super simple to use browser. It's like you need to be able to know a username and a password. So if you understand the concept of username and password, then you use it, right? No need to buy Ethereum and go to an exchange and send it to your MetaMask wallet. The other problem with MetaMask, of course, is it is a Chrome extension. And Chrome extensions are one of the worst possible things you can put on your browser.
Have you seen with Mega what just happened with that? They were stealing people's personal data from Twitter. Then they were mining Monero and stealing cryptos in the background, and then everybody had to uninstall the version. Yeah, it's
MetaMask was Chrome extensions were absolutely toxic to our item trading site called OPSkins. We were for about a year. We were the number one number of Chrome extensions, discrete Chrome extensions on Google Chrome. The problem was we never made any Google Chrome extensions. The bad guys did. And so we had a hell of a time going and speaking to Google and saying, this Chrome extension store is basically a den of malware. And why don't you police it? It was news to me, and I'm not ignorant of a lot of these matters, but it was news to me that there was zero review on the part of Google to uploading a Chrome extension, which means you can literally create a Chrome extension and you can call it Amazon Price Checker. There's a lot of people who will say, oh, let me install Amazon Price Checker, except it's not Amazon Price Checker. When you put that in, the next time you type in Amazon into your browser, it's going to take you to what looks like Amazon.
Yep.
And it's going to ask for your name and password, except it's not Amazon. It's a landing page that's designed to steal your name and password. Exactly. And then they go and they buy a bunch of crap. And the next time you log in, you realize you've been ripped off.
Right.
So the Chrome extension as a concept is really bad, which is one reason why MetaMask is really not going to work. For us, we always say all consumers pray to the god of convenience. And what we mean by that is if something is convenient, consumers will choose that option, even if the other options are more expensive, they are less secure, they're lower quality. Virtually anything you give a consumer, if you give them a choice between crappy and convenient or really good and really inconvenient, that one goes away. They always go for convenience.
Yeah,
and
exactly. So
one thing we know about crypto is it's inconvenient, and that's something we're trying to fix it at Wax.
So as far as with Wax, are you finding that these games in general are being more open to the idea of utilizing these NFTs as opposed to traditional centralized ways? I mean, for them, do they care, like personally, like, oh, you know what I mean? Because how does it affect them? It's mostly just for gamers and right? I mean, the actual games themselves, what's their incentive?
If you asked me this a year ago, I would have said to you the likelihood of a video game company letting a player deposit their own virtual items in that video game and play that video game with their own virtual items, I would have said, yeah, it's pretty much zero. And one of the great things about business and the world is you learn where your assumptions are false. So that was my assumption. I thought it might happen maybe in 10 years. But it has, the landscape has changed really, really rapidly. Once people got introduced to the concept of NFTs, which, as you said, it's like, CryptoKitties or Gods Unchained or War Rider, all these new cool games, these blockchain-based games, video game developers and designers started to see that, oh, people like to trade this stuff back and forth. So the vast majority of video games, your audience may not know this, but the vast, vast majority, even ones that have virtual items, don't allow you to trade them. And there's a whole bunch of reasons we can get into maybe, but they don't allow you to trade. So so many video game designers and game publishers have been unaware of how powerful it is as an engagement tool and as a way to bring in new game players, to allow them to trade their virtual items and to allow them to bring in to work in their game. And I believe that as someone who's published video games, I know the video game industry well. I believe that the notion of allowing other people to bring in, a player to bring in his own virtual item is an incredible customer acquisition tool. And one of the reasons it's such a powerful tool is this. You pay a lot of money as a video game company to acquire customers. About 95% of those customers never buy a virtual item. Never
Really?
buy. Nope. They go in, they play the game, they get stuff for free. They are free to play games, and they leave. So your entire revenue model is based on this tiny percentage of people who will buy virtual items.
Right.
The people most likely to buy a virtual item are people who have previously bought virtual items.
Right.
So what makes a lot of sense about this, what I call this blockchain-inspired business model for the traditional video game industry.
I have a quick question, not to cut you off, just because I'm trying to figure this out. Now, is this isolated just to blockchain games, or can this be extended to traditional games? Like, would I be able to use Wax, say, to trade something on a PS4 game? Is that a possibility in the future?
Maybe one day, but what I will point out here is there's a reason why this is possible today, and it wasn't yesterday. Wasn't in years past. And the reason is that if I had a virtual item in, let's say, pick a random game, Dota 2 or Team Fortress 2, whatever, I got a virtual item. That item exists in that game, and it only exists in that game. So first, there would be no way to take that item out of the game and put it in another game, right?
Right.
Unless the games were using a common platform and they were doing a whole bunch of verification to ensure that there wasn't any funny business going on. Well, that common platform has been invented. It's called the blockchain, right? Could be Wax, could be Ethereum, whatever, but it's a blockchain. So now that you have a way to verify and verify instantly that that item is genuine and it belongs to that account, that is what has made this concept possible. It is conceivable somebody could have done it by just using a traditional like client-server model. I do think there would be a lot more effort to figure out, is that a genuine virtual item that they acquired? It belongs to that account. I think you could do it, but it would be much more difficult. So the fact that you have virtual items that are locked on a blockchain, and as I'm sure your audience knows, makes it pretty darn secure. You will gladly accept, a little token into your wallet that is worth $6,000, and you won't ever have to wonder, oh, is that really a Bitcoin? You know it's a Bitcoin,
right,
because it's on the Bitcoin blockchain and your wallet reads it. Anything that's on a blockchain, is verifiably authentic, and that's what distinguishes items that can now be ported into various games today versus prior to the blockchain being invented. So that's what changed, and that's what allows this phenomenon to take place. And I really do think it's not going to be every game, it'll be the minority of games, but there is going to be a number of games, and it'll be a pretty big number, that will say, hey, as a user generation strategy, by all means, come and bring your virtual items into our game. And while you're at it, you might buy some items from us. Exactly. And since 95% of the people never spend on a virtual item in your game, by inviting people into your game who have virtual items already, there's a far, far greater chance those guys are going to wind up wanting to do something. So that's the idea.
Right. So I want to get a little off topic, because I do have a question, and I know a lot of people are going to ask this anyway, so I'm just going to ask for them. I've recently had enjincoin on the channel as well. I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Yes.
What is your relationship with them? Do you view them as competitors, or do you think that you guys could potentially work together in the future, or what are your stances on this?
So I like the guys at enjincoin. Of course, I see them at the conferences. It's a funny thing in the crypto space. I was a venture capitalist for over 20 years, and in a lot of traditional industries, you think of yourself, and then you think of like competitors, right? Blockchain and crypto is so nascent, and there's so many things that we have to build that To think that there's a company that's in your same space, like Engine, also helps facilitate blockchain-based things for video game companies. They're providing building blocks. We're providing building blocks. We're very big and focused on how do we allow people to create virtual items. This is also something that Engine does, but there's different ways to do it. And we're very big on, once you've created a virtual item, how do we make it very easy for you to trade it, not with MetaMask, which, as I've described, is a pain, but a much more convenient mechanism that we're all familiar with. You want to trade an item, you go point, click. Buying those items with fiat, not always crypto. Crypto can be an impediment.
Are you guys also offering those as options for fiat as well if somebody chooses to?
Yeah. You can. There's a number of ways you can buy NFTs, is what we call them.
Yeah.
Right. You can buy them with what we call wax keys, right? Which are they're like it's like a virtual item that you can use to acquire these NFTs. Using crypto is a pain. And by the way, OPSkins is the largest e-commerce site in the world for accepting cryptocurrency as a deposit and for cashing people out in crypto. So we know a lot about consumers and crypto. And one of the things that we've talked about earlier with Ethereum, but it exists for all the ways people use crypto today. You need to reach consensus. You need a certain amount of confirmations. That takes time. The average person wants to go on a website, say, here's my credit card, buy, and they get credited.
Right. So here's the thing, though. If you guys are obviously offering all of these fiat options, what would you say to somebody that says, well, then what's the point of the token? I mean, obviously you're using the wax token to pay gas on the network, or how does it work? What's the incentive to hold the wax token?
Yeah, I do want to. It's a great point, and I talk at a lot of conferences, and there's a lot of points to make, right? I've been doing this for a long time, so to address that one there, crypto as a payment mechanism. Well, let's start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin as a consumer mass market payment mechanism is dead, absolutely dead. It never really had much of a chance, but it never will. And it's a misnomer to think of Bitcoin as a payment mechanism. Maybe one day when miners are compensated on a transactional basis, not just people going and mining in order to power the network, but Bitcoin has a lot of wonderful uses. If you're talking about large payments, $1,000, $5,000, $100,000. I think it's actually for like a wire transfer. Small payments, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's you have fees that can range between 50 cents and $3 or $4. I mean, just understand, a lot of consumer payments are sub $5, sub $10. That's the case for OPSkins. You have to pay $3 or $4 in fees to conduct a $5 transaction. It just doesn't work. And then you have the delays.
Right.
So Bitcoin and Ethereum are not really designed to be consumer mass market small payment mechanisms. They're just not. Wax works very, very well for that. Now, keep in mind, the Wax blockchain is not yet launched. We have an alpha version of it, which is still very much in alpha. We're using it to run a few things, but the full-blown Wax blockchain won't be ready until the end of this year. When it is, the fees will be essentially zero, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very low fees.
I mean, that's not that long to wait, really.
It's not. Yeah, I agree. Well, unless, of course, you're one of those guys who pings me on Telegram every day.
Yeah. Well, that's crypto because you check, you refresh your app every 5 seconds, and if the price doesn't 10x.
Rome wasn't built in a day, guys. It takes a while.
But I have a question. I have a question too. Now, for example, something.
I want to give you one other point, though.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Wax is a very, very useful payment mechanism because of the low fees and, of course, the very rapid settlement. But the other is, of course, it has a smart contract embedded in it. I'm pretty sure it's the most complex smart contract that has been deployed. It has to do so many things. It has to hold these items in a form of virtual escrow and then be smart enough to know when to release them and when to not. So that is not something that exists clearly on Bitcoin and is never going to work. I mean, we evaluated the ERC-20 standard for Ethereum. Ethereum is a nice general purpose chain, but it's not designed for massive transaction volume for virtual item trading, which is what we've cut our teeth on for 20 years.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with you. That you're not the first person to mention that. So that's a common theme that we bring up. Thank you for that. My question that I had though before was, for example, okay, so you said OPSkins, that's centralized. If there's an issue, something goes wrong, you guys just whatever, make a couple tweaks, you're done. Now, as far as this Wax right now, so you did fork the code of EOS. Now, let's say down the road that doesn't turn out to be the best choice. Are you guys taking a blockchain agnostic approach? Is this something that we have to worry about in the future? Could you move to another chain? Because I know right now the Wax tokens are ERC-20s, correct?
They are today. It's an alpha version of Wax. It still is more. It's more Ethereum-like today than the final version is going to be. And I want to just correct you on one thing. We didn't fork EOS. We basically took the DPoS consensus mechanism.
Okay.
And we're using that, but it is our own native blockchain. So it is not EOS. It is the way we describe it, because you need to communicate things in simple sentences, and reporters like to get a headline. And so what we said is it's a variant of EOS. But what variant means is we are using the DPoS consensus mechanism because I think what Dan Larimer built was very impressive. And we are big fans of DPoS. So it's using DPoS from EOS, but it has a massive amount of homegrown capabilities that don't make it really anything close to what EOS is. And keep in mind, today EOS doesn't really work, right? EOS is it's a project that still needs to be completed. There is a whole bunch of services that need to be added before you can call it a utility. I mean, Bitcoin's a utility, Ethereum's a utility. You can plug in and you can use it. It just doesn't exist yet for EOS. And I suspect it'll be many, many months before it does.
Mm. Yeah, that's a touchy subject with the community for sure. So, but keeping things on while we're here today. Speaking on Wax, I just wanted to know, like, what is going on as far as the news with you guys. I mean, is there any big things up and coming? What can we expect in the short term, long term? What's the grand vision? Just everything. What can we expect? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. There is so many things going on every single day. It makes my head spin. Clearly, right now we are supporting and improving every day the Wax Alpha chain, right? We are working with dozens and dozens of what I call NFTs. You might call CryptoKitty clones, right? But CryptoKitties is that was like, version 1.0 of, I never considered it a game. I considered it a proof of concept for the use of ERC-721 tokens, right? And hats off to them for that.
Yeah, I mean, but you are seeing a lot now. I mean, you have MLB coming in, different types of trading cards. So I see this getting a lot more massive.
It is, we track hundreds and hundreds of what we'll call blockchain-based games. The newest ones, like War Rider, like Gods Unchained, are terrific. For me as a game guy to see what CryptoKitties was in December 2017, and you now we're in September 2018. I never could have imagined how rapidly the game quality would go up. You know, if your audience wants to just type in War Riders, I think it's warriders.io or .com. That's a video game. If they look at the production value, I think they're still in their pre-sale where they're selling their tokens. But if you look at the production value of that, it looks like a mainstream video game. It's like one of those post-apocalyptic things. People are driving around in cool-looking buggies. Each of those buggies is an ERC-721, and you're searching for the version of gas. It's like a Mad Max thing. I think they call it.
So do you see this eventually where almost everything in a game could essentially eventually be traded, like down to tables, chairs, whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But keep in mind, and this is something for the people who aren't gamers, or they're not a subset of that, virtual item traders within games. It is a tiny, tiny percentage of video games that allow people to trade virtual items. I mean, it's tiny. And yet that tiny amount of games drives tens of billions of dollars in annual volume of people buying and selling these virtual items. So if you unlocked a third or half of all video games and said you can trade the items, I mean, it's hundreds of billions of dollars that would take place. So, and what we're seeing, and blockchain, I'm positive was the catalyst, because for 20 years, I didn't see video game companies really caring. I think it's because they've seen how people really like crypto trading. It's both an investment activity as well as like a pastime and a sport. And they've seen with the invention of the NFTs, they've seen, oh, people really like the idea of owning the virtual item themselves. So you asked a second ago, like, what's the future of Wax? Wax is enabling a virtual item-centric universe where instead of things like the Apple App Store and Google Play, where the apps are at the atomic level, the app publishers are basically the center. We are saying the virtual items in our world is what's at the center. And all of the video games and other people who want to just engage with people who have these special items will come, and they'll incorporate the ability for those virtual items to live in those worlds. We saw the other day, a game company came to me in the virtual reality space. It's called Terra Virtua, and they have a really cool virtual reality based game, and I'm seeing the beta version of it. But for me to see Vigo based skins, we use the word skin to describe the paint job or the let's say the article of clothing. If you can wear it, if it can go on your weapon, it's like a paint job, a skin. We call them cosmetics as well. Mm-hmm. So they have put in as a kind of a test case, a showcase of how their virtual reality world works. They have a Wax store. You go into the Wax store and you can get Vigo virtual items, pick them up, look at them. It was fascinating to me because I have been collecting skins and these virtual items for many, many years. And you can look at them real closely on your screen. But to be able to hold it up in virtual reality and kind of go like this and look at it all these different ways and see that the artist really covered all angles was super cool. So it's those kinds of novel experiences. And I think the item I was holding, by the way, was a Vigo skin that cost like $7,000. So you can imagine a guy going, hey, I'd like to be able to use this in other games.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what Wax is saying is trading is a very, very basic human activity that's existed since the dawn of civilization. People enjoy it. It's engaging. It's social. And being able to trade somebody something, a digital item, which you know is provably authentic, instantly provably authentic, otherwise you don't know what you're getting, that if you have those building blocks and a really easy browser like Wax Express Trade, so you don't have to do the MetaMask shit and all that. It's really easy to use. It's a really simple wallet. You're going to see hundreds and then thousands of games. It may initially be the indies who are like, I'll just build it for this. It'll be a discrete category of video games. And the video game industry is big. It's about $140 billion
Oh,
a
it's
year.
massive, and it looks like you guys are starting to build the real world Ready Player One. So everyone get ready.
I often say Ready Player One is our product roadmap.
There you
So,
go.
yeah.
Good movie, by the way. I never read the book, but I heard the book was better than the movie. But
You know what? I've heard the same. I did not read the book, and
yeah,
now I'm encouraged to go read it
yeah, I
because
should do that if I could find some freaking time around here.
it can be a reality.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, I just put on the Magic Leap, the new Magic Leap goggles as well.
Oh yeah, how's that?
I will tell you, I want now. That's of course it's augmented reality. I wanted it to be a little bit cooler than it was. Here's what I would say: if in 2014, when they sort of started announcing the product, if that had been available, it would have blown my socks off. But what you do on Magic Leap is what I've been told I was going to be able to do for the past 4 years. So now that I could do it, it wasn't novel.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
gotcha.
it's too bad. But what is great about it is you don't have nearly all the wires and stuff. It's a fairly small helmet.
Oh yeah.
Pretty
The
easy.
original concepts back the virtual reality when I was growing up, man, like some of those concepts were just like there's no way this is going to retail. No one's going to wear this. You know what I'm saying? No one's going to it's not realistic.
And do you know why? Back
What?
to what I said earlier, because it's not convenient.
Right. Exactly.
Convenience is everything. So you will know when virtual reality and augmented reality is going to hit mass market adoption. And that's when you say it's easy. There's a lot of technology that has to be built before that's going to happen. But I do believe blockchain based items is a big part of it.
Oh, I agree. I say it every day on my channel, and you know that's why I wanted to have you on the channel today because I wanted people to really understand the significance of it. So, William, we've been going for like 45 minutes or so over here. So, to keep audience retention, is there anything that you kind of wanted to, anything you have to say before we go?
Oh, sure. You were asking earlier, like, what is the price of Bitcoin going to be on December 31st? And as I told you, I've got a very specific
Yeah.
model that will tell you exactly what that is.
Right.
Um, but I forgot.
We're all Nostradamus. We all have crystal balls. I don't know. You know, for people say I just you just stay in the space, follow the projects that are actually out there doing things, and just forget about the other garbage. So obviously what you guys are doing is something real. We can use it. It's being used. It makes sense. It's more secure. So this is definitely one of those niche markets that I'm gonna keep focusing on, and I hope that in the future as you guys do have developments, you can continue to update us as well.
Yeah,
I'd love
and
to.
if you want, I'll send you some slides you can intersperse here
Yeah.
throughout your presentation, so the audience can see what I'm talking about. This, if you make it easy for people to trade stuff, virtual items, encapsulated on a blockchain, the growth is very fast. And video games is, in my judgment, the best place to get the consumers to try it out first.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a great place to start. So, William, thank you so much for coming to the channel. For everyone out there that hasn't checked out Wax, definitely have a look at it. Very, very interesting, very real world use cases. You're obviously seeing a lot of people get excited over it. So, that being said, guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys are awesome. My name's K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto and peace out.